It's a great honor for me to present the first keynote speaker for this evening, direct from the Big Apple, the President and Chief Executive Officer at IAB, Randall Rothenberg.
Thank you, Karen. Thank you. Let's see. There we are. Thank you. It's really wonderful to be back in Stockholm. Thank you for having me. Everybody here is so beautiful and so tall. I love it here. I'm honored, Charlotte, by your invitation. I'm so proud of you all. And I apologize for two things. One is I don't speak Swedish. And the second is I want to talk about some serious subjects. I know this is a celebratory evening, a celebration of creativity. I want to talk about creativity, but I want to talk about some other things that we need to do first in order that we all be creative. And the most important thing that we can do is to put our users first. This is something that has gotten lost in the crazy frenzy of the invention of the digital industry over the past 20 years. And now we have to refocus on our users and on user experience if the next 20 years are to be as good and even better than the first 20 years. So please forgive me some serious conversation to begin this celebratory evening. I want to tell you just two things about IAB. I mean, our mission is empowering the media and marketing industries to thrive in the digital economy. While our major members are publishers, we work for the entire ecosystem. And we've gotten much larger over the years. As Charlotte mentioned, there are 44 IABs outside of the US, and increasingly we are a powerful, comprehensive, and cohesive network of collaborators working together to set standards, to do research, to work with policymakers in major capitals to try and create a better industry for ourselves and for our users. The big issues I want to talk to you about today are four. The big one, of course, on everybody's minds around the world, in which Sweden, IAB Sweden, has played a leading role, is eliminating ad blocking with quality user experiences. I also want to talk about creating quality inventory as a way of fighting fraud. I think it's worth having a few words about measurement and how measurement will give us quality audiences. And finally, I want to end with a word about creativity, a word or two on creativity. But let me dive right in. Let me talk about ad blocking because I know it's something that's of great concern here. And in fact, everywhere there is a digital industry, there are concerns with ad blocking. I think the most important thing to say up front is to quote the great old comic strip, Pogo, "We have met the enemy, and he is us." This is excerpts from a recent Wall Street Journal article, a very good article about ad blocking. And the main point of the article is that everyone in the digital industry is responsible for the negative user experiences that have led to ad blocking. No one segment has created this problem. It has been created by publishers, marketers, agencies, and technology companies that have lost sight of user experience. The ad blocking rates, it's actually a little hard to get good research, but it seems, based on individual research done by various IABs around the world in conjunction with other organizations, that we're seeing ad blocking adoption rates, this is download rates, of 22 to 30% in most markets. So it's a little bit hazy because it's sometimes hard to tell when people say in surveys that, yes, they're using ad blockers. Turns out many of them are confusing antivirus software with ad blockers. But I think it's fair to say it is a serious issue, and we have to pay attention to it, no matter where we are. IAB US research indicates that the top reasons that people download ad blocking software, just download it, not use it, but download it. Well, reason number one is because they hear about it. It's just the awareness factor. But after that, they have bad experiences with viruses, and they are tired of low-quality ads. This is consistent across all research that we have seen and all research we've conducted. Turns out that that's also pretty consistent with users who are using ad blockers. This is distinct from just having downloaded it. A very large percentage of people download the software but never use it. But people who use the software say that the top reasons they use it are: one, is fear of viruses and malware, security. Two, it's slow device performance, especially in mobile, and the cost of that slow performance. And the third is that they just are tired of bad advertising. The fact is that annoying advertising really is a big issue. Pop-up blockers, pop-ups, various things like that, autoplay sound. So we can't discount, there are three separate factors involved here. One of them is invasiveness, the invasiveness of the advertising. A second is fear, real fear of things that can corrupt your computer or your mobile phone. And the third is just the slowness, the bad device performance. The reason for this is that our supply chain, the thing that moves the product, the media content from point A to point B to the end user, is completely out of control. In the old days, the media supply chain, the media and advertising supply chain, was very simple. If you were in the magazine industry or you were in the television industry, basically, an advertiser commissioned an agency to create an ad. The agency contacted publishing companies, they ran the ad got to the consumer. Very simple, very straightforward, a wonderful business for everyone to be in. But of course, we introduced in our industry a fair amount of complexity in the form of intermediaries. We have DSPs working for the demand side. We have SSPs working for the supply side. We have exchanges, which have replaced networks. But as if that weren't enough, we also have viewability vendors, multiple competing viewability vendors. We have viewability vendors working for the publishers. We have viewability vendors working for the agencies and the marketers. We have anti-fraud vendors who are also working for the publishers as well as for the buy side. We have all kinds of intermediaries. More vendors equal more data calls. More data calls equals slower load times, and also increased vulnerability of the devices and the systems. The consumer is feeling pummeled, beaten up by all this. It gets worse. I hate to say it. This is the world record viewed by Ghostery, which is the data and security company with which we do a lot of work. They found 90 tags fired from one creative unit. And of course, it crashed the page. But can you imagine more than 90 ad tags? What a swamp that is. Yet, unfortunately, while 90 is a very large number, it's not that unusual. Multiple ad tags, this tag swamp, just creates a terrible, terrible user experience. The fact of the matter is, on mobile, web page load times are dominated by advertising content. I urge you to take a look at that top one, because the real thing you're learning here is not just that advertising slows page load times, but take a look how long that load time is. 40 seconds to load a page. How many people here watch television? Anybody watch television? Can you imagine what would happen if it took 40 seconds to load a television channel? That's unfortunately too much the norm in our industry. We found, this is also from Ghostery, that a reduction in tags obviously and directly improves page load performance. Ghostery has also discovered that almost half of all consumers are very much worried about their security. Again, this is consistent all the research that we've seen. Our response at IAB has been to direct all of our operations, everything we do, around the adoption of what we call the lean principles. We believe the entire industry globally must get behind cleaning up our supply chain in order to honor our users. Lean stands for the 4 very straightforward things we must do. We need to have lighter advertising that is faster to load. We need to make encryption, HTTPS and SSL encryption, the absolute standard. There should be no advertising that appears anywhere on unencrypted pages. That is how to solve for the worst of people's virus fears. We need to support a privacy program. In the US, we have the Ad Choices program, which is increasingly a global program. It's being administered in Europe by the European Digital Advertising Alliance, the EDAA. This needs to become a global program to honor people's privacy concerns. And then the N in LEAN stands for non-invasive, non-disruptive advertising. It's very subjective, it's very hard to do, but it has to be a commitment of ours to respect our users. Now, that's a longer-term fix. It's something that we need to do forever and ever and ever. In the short term, there are many things that publishers can do to ward off the ill effects of ad blocking. We use another acronym for this. In English, we call this DEAL. We have to deal with our users. The D stands for detect. Every publisher should implement a detection script. IAB has an open source detection script available to all IAB members around the world. You need to know who's coming onto your sites with ad blockers installed. No matter what you do after that, you need to know who. That's the essential research you need to do. The second thing we suggest is that you educate your users. Educate them about how we make our money. That advertising is an essential part of the value exchange through which we're able to deliver the remarkable free content that we deliver, the news, the information, the entertainment, the videos, everything that we do is mostly delivered with advertising as its form of monetization. We then have to ask our users with ad blockers on to change their behaviors, to turn off the ad blockers, to whitelist our sites, maybe pay a subscription fee for an advertising-free or an advertising-light site. And if the users change their behaviors positively, then you lift any access restrictions. But if they don't change their behaviors, we have to limit their access. You're not going to let people into your store if they continue to steal your goods. Publishers that have implemented deal strategies, and more have been doing this, are seeing conversion rates of 30 to 40%. It's a very effective strategy, and we recommend it to every publisher around the world. We're also working hard to implement lean scoring. We expect that sometime this year we'll have our first rudimentary lean scoring system. We want this to be a public score for publishers and for advertisers. We want to be able to showcase who does well in terms of delivering good user experiences and who does less well. Not just publishers, but advertisers as well, since it's the advertisers and their advertising that is dragging down our publishers' performance. I like this mantra, which comes from Dave Morris, who's the Chief Revenue Officer of CBS Interactive, who spoke at Mobile World Congress on ad blocking. And his mantra is better solves blocking. I think this is a good summary of what the rules for the ad blocking era are. We need better creative. We need better targeting. We need better ad placements. We need better technology to tell us things about what makes for optimum user experiences. We need better education of our own industry and of our users. We need better formats. Better formats make for better advertising. And altogether, we need a better user experience. I mentioned fighting fraud and creating quality inventory. This has been another big issue that IAB has taken on, and I think very, very successfully. You know, the digital advertising supply chain, it's not a term you've heard much in the media industry in the past, although for those of you who come out of heavy industry, supply chain is second nature. Well, what is a supply chain? It's just a system of organizations, people, activities, information, resources, processes that are involved in moving a product from raw material to finished goods, from suppliers through to manufacturers to the end user. We need to really think about our digital media supply chain because the cost of fraudulent advertising, the cost of intentional non-human traffic is very high. IAB research issued just a couple months ago says the total cost, direct and indirect, is about $8.2 billion. It's a lot of money, and this is why advertisers have been so fearful about fraud, because they think it's coming out of their pockets, and to a great degree, it is. We created in the US the Trustworthy Accountability Group, TAG for short, a full industry program to routinize and mechanize the fight against criminal behavior, criminal activity in the digital advertising supply chain, with the goal of eliminating fraud. But fraud is not the only thing that's involved here. It's also about combating malware, because malware, viruses, are used intentionally by organized crime to take over people's computers to distribute bots. These bot networks delivered by malware, too often in advertising, what creates the fraud problem. A lot of this shows up on piracy, on pirate sites, sites that pirate publishers' content, especially movies and music. So TAG was set up also to combat that. And overall, TAG's mission is promoting brand safety through greater transparency. TAG has involved and gotten into its leadership some of the greatest brands in media and advertising and marketing. It's been a pretty powerful organization. And its solutions, all of which have been introduced or are about to be introduced, the major ones. The first one I want to tell you about is just simply called the registry. I can think of no other industry on earth where companies routinely cut checks or give credit card numbers, companies, to other companies whose business they don't understand, whose location they don't know, whose executives they've never met. In fact, they don't know what they do. But this complex supply chain that we have, this is standard operating procedure in our business. Look into your own businesses and see how many vendors you're writing checks to that you don't know where they are, what they do, or who they are. But that's the way we operate, especially as our system of transactions grows increasingly automated. So the registry is actually exactly that. It is a registry in which all participants, all supply chain participants, apply so that anybody else who's doing business with them can judge their legitimacy. They apply with names, with addresses, with SIC codes, with contact telephone numbers. So you can call and find out whether this company that you're cutting a check to, which says it's an analytics company, is really an analytics company and not somebody operating in a basement in Bucharest. TAG, you can find out more about it by visiting tagtoday.net, and I urge you to do this because this is a solution that is going to be rolling out globally very, very soon, and it is a good solution to the fraud problem. I mentioned measurement and the quality audience. I just want to give you an update on viewability. I know that this is a big issue everywhere in the world, and I want to give you just a little bit of background on it because people have forgotten where it came from. The drive for viewable impressions was based on a major collaboration and a $6 million effort by 3 of the largest trade associations, hiring Bain and Company, which determined from a research project involving more than 100 marketers, agencies, and publishers that the single most important thing necessary to get digital on equivalent footing with other media was to shift our main currency from the served impression to the viewable impression. As long as we were consigned to the served impression, this medium was always going to be nothing more than a direct response medium. Direct response is great, it's good, but it's not good enough for brand advertisers. So we needed to have a viewable impression in order to be an equivalent to other media. And the viewable impression was always step 1 in the 5-part program we called Making Measurement Make Sense, or 3MS. The part that we're working on now is to establish a GRP, a digital GRP that can be used in planning and buying and optimization along with other media. So this is all about increasing share of budget, share of wallet to digital. I mentioned why we started here. Viewability assures that an ad served is delivered and rendered. It creates an opportunity to see. It puts us on a par with other media. And the fact is that the viewable impression is the new currency. This is no longer a work in progress. This has happened. Viewability is being tracked by agencies on virtually every campaign now. They can't necessarily input it into their systems, but they are certainly tracking it. We've seen steady growth in the volume of transactions that are based on viewability, and we're now advancing the guidelines and the standards. So rest assured that viewable impressions are here to stay. Whatever the blips, whatever the hiccups, the viewable impression is the currency in the industry. And in fact, the advertisers are now themselves increasingly saying that the job is almost done. This is a quote from David Cohen, who's the head of investment at Universal McCann, basically saying it's come and it's going to be solved sooner rather than later. Coming up, we actually have a lot of resources that are there for you, so I urge you all to go look these up. It's all there for your perusal. And then coming up, we have mobile viewable measurement guidelines that are now out in beta and commentary form. And making mobile measurement make sense, which we refer to as 4MS, is the new focus of what we're doing at IAB. And then finally, I want to close with a thought on creative, because in the end, that's what we do for a living. We are in a technology-enabled business, but technology does not advance our own or our customers' purposes, and it doesn't uplift our consumers. That comes from the content of what we do, the creativity of what we do, the strategy of what we do, and the execution of that strategy. For the past couple of years with the Mixx Awards, we have been collecting the information we get, the cases that we get. We've been analyzing it, and we've been using these analyses to deliver education back into the marketplace. I encourage IAB Sweden to do exactly the same thing. Don't look at this as just an award show. Look at it as an opportunity to collect best practices and communicate those best practices back into the marketplace. We've done that through a series of research reports that we call What Works and Why, in which we go to the judges of the Mixx Awards and ask them to cull through all the winning submissions and kind of bring out what are the best practices. Some of the best practices from this year that I wanted to focus on, because they've been really, really kind of fascinating. We've seen the major trends in video. Number one, that long-form video is becoming a dominant form. It's not necessarily replacing short form, but these are two different media with two different purposes. Quite clearly, there are higher and higher consumer expectations for storytelling and narrative that engages. Creative yet simple uses of digital media are the ones that are most effective. And very importantly, sometimes the best advertising isn't advertising at all. One of the really wonderful examples of this, I'm not going to play this as a video, I have one video at the end, was the Ken Burns iPad app. Ken Burns, major documentary producer. The iPad app is actually an advertisement for Burns's films, so that people will go online and watch them, so that advertisers will sponsor them. And so what the iPad app does is it collects snippets from these documentaries and creates a searchable opportunity for consumers and others to taste test the documentaries. It was a brilliant campaign, and still ongoing. It lives forever. Downloads have been very high, and they peak whenever a new Ken Burns documentary comes out, as one just did in the US. Great example of apps as marketing tools. We also looked at audiences and data as a creative resource. And what we found is that they work when they give relevant personalization back to consumers. In other words, data is good when it can create personal experiences. It also works best when those experiences speak to people's emotions. One example of this is the Watch Dogs digital shadow. Now, this was Ubisoft, which is a security company. And what was so interesting about this, and we thought a very, very controversial choice for a Mixx Gold Award, is that it plays on people's fears about internet viruses and malware. And the way it did it, the way this is a piece of software that actually tells users how vulnerable they specifically are by culling through the entire web to find out where their personal privacy is violated. It's a real concern. It's a security company. They use data to play those fears back and drive, as it says, more than 2 million unique visitors to the Digital Shadow site. And user time averaged 5 minutes on that site. And then I want to talk finally about mobile, because the major creative trend in mobile, unsurprisingly, is using mobile as a catapult across multiple screens. What we found, what the judges found, is that campaigns that drive results will be fueled by the smart use of technologies that are guided by a need, and that mobile is the best access point into that need. The best example of this, and it's kind of a wonderful example, is for Oscar Mayer, which is a major meat producer in the United States, owned by Kraft Foods. And this is their Wake Up and Smell the Bacon campaign. And it may seem like a joke. It is not a joke. They created a piece of technology that delivers smells to your mobile phone. So rather than have me actually describe it, I want to play the video that does a much better job of this than I ever could. Oh, we need the sound on this.
For over 100 years, Oscar Mayer bacon's distinctive scent has defined the American morning. So when the iconic brand needed an iconic experience for the digital age, we asked ourselves,
what if smells could be digitized? Researchers say it is theoretically possible.
Researchers were absolutely right. Introducing Wake Up and Smell the Bacon, the world's first mobile app and device that lets you awaken to the sound and scent of bacon. It took us 9 months of research and development, including a partnership with a digital scent technologist in Japan to perfect the device. The result was a true bacon-scented breakthrough. Designed to work with a one-of-a-kind bacon alarm clock app. We launched the campaign with an epic bacon dream.
At darkest midnight, the nostril's North Star awaits you.
Bacon lovers rushed to the website, resulting in more than 300,000 applicants for one of the limited edition devices. And news of our creation caused pandemonium across the internet and the world.
The smell of bacon in the morning is something we're always happy to wake up to. And
wakey, wakey, eggs and bakey.
Your iPhone might be able to wake you up to the scent of bacon.
Most importantly, Oscar Mayer had proved it's still the only brand that can make America's bacon dreams come true.
Wake up.
So a great original idea. And that kind of leads to a summary. What are the 3 keys to creative excellence? One is authenticity. You've got to be authentic to yourself, authentic to your users' expectations. The messages obviously have to be compelling, and they have to motivate some kind of action. That's a truism in advertising. We've kind of lost it in the programmatic era. We need to get that back. And also, risk and innovation inspire greatness. They always have in great advertising, and they always will. And I want to kind of end with a final word. I know that Amazon Echo is not here yet. It will be, and I'm mentioning this because I got one about 2 weeks ago, and my life changed within about an hour of setting it up. Because it's voice-controlled, it's a remarkable voice-controlled device, controls all my music, controls the lighting in my home. It's really kind of a window into the future of the connected home in a way that just astonished me. I mean, really, within a few hours of having it there, I felt like I had a spouse that had just moved in, that I could have conversations with. I could get different music and other things. It was amazing to me. But also, within a couple hours of setting it up, I realized that it was recording me. In fact, it has, your voice controlling it, and it tells you that it's recording you. You know that it's recording you. You set it off with a trigger word, and the first time you go onto the app for Alexa, which is the controlling operating system, the app tells you that it has recorded you, and tells you it's done this in order to improve its voice recognition. So I know this, and I knew it from the moment I got it. And I asked myself the question, did this bother me? I mean, isn't it kind of creepy to have something in your home that's recording you and collecting all this data? And the answer was no, not at all. Didn't bother me at all. In fact, this has become one of the hottest products in the technology industry in the United States. And it appears not to be bothering anyone. So why not? Well, the reason was that in all of our experience with Amazon, we think of two things. One is trust. Amazon has never, to our knowledge, abused our trust. We give it all kinds of data and have been doing that for years. But the second is also value. Amazon takes that data from us and delivers value back. Anybody who shops on Amazon knows that. It gives very, very good recommendations back. So trust and value were the reasons I know I wasn't disturbed by this. And in fact, I welcomed it because this new device was giving me all kinds of new value that I never knew that I needed. And now I can't live without it. It was kind of ironic because on the Monday after I set it up, I was back in the office and I was going online looking for some information about things. And some folks who know me know that I'm a fanatic photographer, kind of obsessive about it. But I was going online to look at some things for work-related things. I was going to a lot of news sites. And every news site that I went to featured the same programmatic ad for the same lenses that I had already bought from the same store that I shop for my camera equipment from. So looking at the screen, one of these is from CBS Interactive, one of them is from Facebook, one is from the Los Angeles Daily News, and one of them is from CNN. This is all in the course of about 2 or 3 hours of surfing. I got the same non-frequency capped programmatic ad for something I already owned. This didn't creep me out. That's the phrase that's usually used about ads that follow you around the web. This pissed me off. It made me angry. Why did it make me angry? Because this advertising was an assault on me. It was a waste of my time. It was completely and utterly valueless. In our industry, all of us need to start thinking more like Amazon and put user experience and user value first. And we have to stop serving our own internal needs. There is no excuse for assaulting our users with non-frequency capped, crappy, invasive advertising. As much as it might serve our revenue needs, This is what is causing people to block our ads. If we start thinking like an Amazon and put user experience first, we can lift up the fortunes of publishers and our customers, the marketers, the brands, and the agencies. That's the thought I want to leave you with. Think obsessively about how to add value for your users. Thank you, and congratulations to all the winners tonight.
Oh, stay, please. Thank you so much. Thank you. You said we have to teach the young people to understand that the advertising is necessary if you want to get all the free stuff. How do we teach them that?
Well, I mean, I think the first thing to do is publishers need to implement communications on their sites. It's really kind of say, hey, here is how we make our money. Be very transparent about the value exchange. And again, offer up those opportunities. What we found is that simply by having a dialogue with our users, as simple as putting a box and then offering a choice that shows respect. And respect is what translates into those 30 to 40% conversion rates. So I think that's the start. Implement something on the site about how you make your money from advertising, from subscriptions, and other things.
It's a very exciting time right now. Everything happens so fast.
Yeah.
What's the most exciting thing you think? You said the Amazon box. Is there anything else you really long for?
Well, that I long for? That I can't say publicly. I'm just overwhelmed by what's happening in the world of digital video. I think the opportunity to create basically movies, television shows, to create an entire global television network with the apps that come built into your laptop or available in the cloud is one of the most amazing creative opportunities that's ever been offered. I mean, if I were coming out of college today, there's no question in my mind that I'd be going into the digital video industry. Now, in some senses, that's old-fashioned because it's about making movies, but in a new medium. But the idea that you have these creative tools and this distribution opportunity is, I just think, remarkable. Yes. We could all be, think how many Ingmar Bergmans there could be in high school today.
Is that a good thing? Yes.
But, it could be a little somber at times. But,
Thank you so much, Randall.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.